clearly soldiers in petty coats, dauntless crusaders for women's votes. Though we adore men individually, we agree that as a group they're rather
The suffragette movement was a campaign to gain the women's right to vote. The word suffrage means the right to vote, but the term suffragette was originally made up by the Daily Mail as a nasty name for the campaigners. But it stuck and was from then on used for the heroines of the movement.
Well done, Sister Suffragette!
It took many years for the movement to succeed, as the men in power believed that women were inferior and were untrustworthy. The campaign happened because more and more women across many countries wanted equal voting rights with men, because many women began to want to have a say in how their country was run and who it was run by. By this time, some women were running businesses and employing uneducated men who had more rights than they did.
Fighting for our rights militantly.
Women in different countries campaigned in different ways. In New Zealand, the Temperance Union, led by Kate Sheppard, succeeded in getting the vote in 1893, far earlier than in any other countries. They presented large petitions to the government and sent letters to different newspapers. They argued their case in a sensible but effective way. Kate Sheppard is such an important person in New Zealand history that she has been honoured with her face on the $10 note. In Britain, however, they started peacefully but got more and more violent as the campaign went on. In 1868, Elizabeth Garrett presented a petition to the British government, but they laughed at her and sent her away. Later, in the 1890s, the movement, in this case led by Emmeline Pankhurst, used a more violent approach. They broke street lamps, destroyed golf courses, shattered windows, set fire to places, and fought with policemen. Some even chained themselves to houses of important people who did not support them. There was a very famous incident when a suffragette named Emily Davidson threw herself in front of the King's horse at the Epsom Derby, giving the movement its first martyr. A martyr is a person who dies for their cause. As a result of these actions, many suffragettes found themselves in prison. Many went on hunger strikes and ended up being force-fed by the prison guards. In 1914, when the First World War began, the English suffragettes called a ceasefire and did all they could to support the government. This meant taking over the men's work while they were away fighting. After the war, the government were forced to reconsider as the suffragettes had been so supportive. Also, they did not want the campaigners to return to their violent ways. In 1918, the British Parliament passed an act granting limited voting rights to women. This meant the only women allowed to vote had to be over 30 years old, to own a house, and who had graduated from British universities. Finally, in 1928, women in the UK were granted equal voting rights with men. As a result of the suffragette movement, women now have a major voice in politics. In 1924, Nancy Astor became the first female MP, beginning a long line of female politicians. More recently, in 1979, Britain elected Margaret Thatcher, making her Britain's first female Prime Minister. In New Zealand, Jenny Shipley became New Zealand's first female Prime Minister in 1997, followed by Helen Clark in 1999. All of these female public icons owe their place in history to the success of women like Kate Sheppard and Emmeline Pankhurst in the suffragette movement.
Well done! Well done! Well